I wore the same shoes I'd worn to every job interview, every exam, every early morning bus ride. Scuffed at the toes, creased at the sides. I told myself it made them lucky. The restaurant smelled like garlic and old wood, the kind of place with cloth napkins and silverware that didn't match. It was small, warm, humming with quiet conversation. A place I picked. Even if no one asked me what I wanted, I had just graduated with honors. First in my family. No one really said those words out loud. It was mostly, finally, and your cousin already has a job, you know. And just don't get too proud, okay? Still, I had dreamed about this day. I imagined my mother smiling. Not out of politeness, but pride. I imagined my father, for once, not checking the bill like I was an expense. I imagined my sister saying, "You did it." Not much, just that. But instead, they were whispering something before the appetizers even came. Kara. Of course it was Kara. Her hair was curled just enough to look casual, but I knew how long she spent getting it like that. Her nails glittered as she adjusted her sleeve, making sure the light caught her left hand again. And again. And again. I noticed the ring before anyone said anything, but I stayed quiet. I gave them the benefit of the doubt. I thought, they wouldn't. Not tonight. The waiter brought out wine. Mom clinked her glass. Kara beamed like a chandelier, and then she said it. "We have some exciting news," she began, not even bothering to wait until dessert. I said yes. She held her hand up like she was raising it in class. Cheers. Laughter. Even the waiter congratulated her. Someone passed their phone around with a picture of the moment. Him on one knee, her crying under fairy lights. Dad wiped a tear from his eye. Mom gushed about how grown up she looked. My degree was still in the envelope beside my plate. No one asked me to open it. No one noticed I hadn't touched my drink. Kara leaned over and said, "Hope you don't mind. I didn't want to steal your thunder or anything. But I mean, how could I not tell them today?" I smiled. Because I'd been trained to. Because silence, for me, had always been safer than speaking. But something inside me broke. Not loudly, not like glass, more like paper. The sound of a letter tearing slowly down the fold. I watched them. Toast. To her future, to his last name, to the promise of a house with white siding and a fenced-in yard. My wine glass stayed full. No one asked what my next step was. No one asked what it felt like to walk across that stage with my name echoing off auditorium walls. They asked if Kara had a date in mind. If the ring was real gold. If the proposal was a surprise. It wasn't, of course. She'd picked the ring 6 months ago. I picked up my fork and moved my food around. The heat of the pasta had long gone. I couldn't taste anything. The restaurant played soft music, the kind that fills silence without interrupting it. But in my head, there was a different kind of noise, the kind that hummed from years ago. I remembered the college acceptance letter. I printed it at the public library because the printer at home was always for important things only. Mom didn't read it. She said she was busy with Kara's senior portraits. Dad said college was expensive. Kara asked if I was sure I could handle being away from home. No one said, "We're proud of you." When I got my scholarship, Kara said, "Must be nice to get paid just for existing." Back in the restaurant, she was telling them about the theme, blush and champagne. "Classy, not cheesy," she said. Someone mentioned a destination wedding. "Maybe Italy," Mom offered. Could be symbolic, she added. Where our real roots are. I wasn't sure who she meant by our. The spotlight had never been mine for long. It would land on me, flicker, and then shift like a moth chasing something shinier. But this felt deliberate, like they waited for this night on purpose. Kara said they almost told everyone last week but decided it was better to wait for a special occasion. I was the special occasion. I was the setup for her punchline. The waiter asked if we wanted dessert. Kara clapped her hands together. Oh, can we do the chocolate one? The one I love? Mom turned to me then, for the first time that night, and said, You don't mind, right? It is her big moment. I opened my mouth to respond but stopped. The air felt thick in my throat. I looked down at my diploma envelope, still unopened. It had a grease stain on the corner now, from someone's plate. I slid it into my bag, quietly. That was when I noticed it. A reservation card tucked under the candle on the table. Reservation. The Callahan family. Kara's engagement dinner. My name wasn't on it. Not graduation, not celebration, not even a mention. This had never been for me, and they hadn't even bothered to hide it. I didn't cry. Not then. Instead, I did something that surprised even me. I stood up, quietly. I need some air, I said. No one followed me out, not even Kara. Outside, the air felt cleaner. Or maybe it was just quieter. There was a bench tucked near the side of the building, underneath a crooked street lamp. I sat there, alone, as the laughter continued inside. It didn't hurt in the way people expect pain to hurt. It didn't burn or stab or ache all at once. It just pressed. A slow, familiar pressure. Like hands around my shoulders. Not to hold me, but to keep me small. I leaned forward, elbows on knees, eyes on my shoes. The same old shoes. The only ones that had walked with me through all of it. And I thought, not just about tonight, but about all the other nights, like my 16th birthday. When I asked for a cake and Mom said we didn't have the money, but Kara got a new phone 2 weeks later. I blew out a candle and a piece of toast that year, like prom. When I saved up for months working weekends at the florist, pressing petals into ribbons, sweeping up fallen glitter. I bought a second-hand dress, hemmed it myself. When I came downstairs, Dad didn't even look up from the TV. Kara told me not to post too many photos, said it would seem desperate. Like every family photo. Kara in the middle. Mom's hand on her shoulder. Dad's hand on her back. And me. Always slightly off to the side. Like an afterthought that made the frame awkward. The door opened behind me for a second. I turned, out of instinct. It was just the waiter, taking out trash. Not them. Not anyone. My phone buzzed. A message from Dad. Where'd you go? Kara's about to cut the cake. No, are you okay? No. We're sorry. Just a reminder that I was supposed to be part of the audience. That my job was to clap and nod and not disrupt the scene. I didn't respond. Instead, I looked up at the sky. It was gray-black. That kind of sky that doesn't commit to stars. And I whispered something I hadn't said aloud before. What if I just stopped showing up? Not to dinners. Not to holidays. Not to their scenes. What would happen if I just left the picture? Would they shift the frame? Would they notice the space? Would they finally say my name? Or would they keep smiling? Just a little tighter. Like they always had? I sat outside until my fingers went cold. They didn't come looking, and I realized they never would. When I came back inside, they were singing. Kara had chocolate on her cheek and both arms wrapped around her fiancé's neck, posing as someone took a photo. Mom clapped like she was at a concert. Dad held up his phone and said, "Smile, everyone." No, one noticed I had been gone for nearly 40 minutes. No one asked why my eyes were red. I stood near the doorway for a while, invisible. Then quietly walked to the table, picked up my coat, and said I had to leave. Mom barely turned her head. Now? But Kara hasn't opened her gifts yet. Kara looked up. You're seriously leaving? Wow, okay. I guess some people can't handle sharing the spotlight. I didn't answer. I just walked out, and for the first time in my life, I didn't feel guilty. When I got home, I opened my diploma envelope in silence. No claps, no confetti, no, "We're proud of you." Just me, sitting on my bed under the yellow light bulb I never replaced. My name looked so strange in calligraphy. I'd practiced that signature so many times, writing it on the corners of scrap paper, daydreaming about what it might look like, in a frame. But in that moment, it felt like something I had forged in secret, like an achievement I was never supposed to claim. The next morning, I turned off my phone. No notifications, no apologies, no "thank you for coming." Just a forwarded photo from Mom. Kara holding up the ring with the caption, "What a night." The best family in the world. That day, I cleared out a drawer in my room. The bottom one. I put inside the graduation cap I never wore past the ceremony. The fake pearl earrings Mom gave Kara, then handed to me when she found them again. The prom photo of me alone, standing beside a garden arch no one built for me. And the envelope. Grease-stained, creased, still mine. Then I slid it shut. That drawer became my quiet archive. Not of achievements, but of moments they tried to erase. And something in me shifted. I started eating alone in the kitchen. I stopped volunteering to run errands. I answered, only when spoken to. I didn't slam doors. I didn't cry in front of them. I simply stepped out of the frame. 2 weeks later, Kara posted the engagement photos on Instagram. I was tagged in one. Not a picture of me. Just the dinner table, the back of my head barely visible. The caption read, "Celebrating love with everyone who matters." I removed the tag. Then I blocked her. The silence became a kind of armor. Didn't explain myself. I didn't announce my absence. I simply stopped offering myself up for their forgetting. A week after the dinner, Mom knocked on my bedroom door. She didn't wait for a response before walking in. She held a stack of bridal magazines in her arms. "Kara was hoping you could help with centerpieces. You're always so neat." I didn't look up from my laptop. "I'm busy." She blinked, caught off guard. Busy with what? I let the silence answer her. She stood there for a few seconds, waiting for the version of me she'd always depended on. Agreeable, quiet, ever accommodating. But that girl had gone somewhere she couldn't follow. When she realized I wouldn't rise to meet her, she set the magazines down and left the room. That was the first time I saw her confused. Not angry, just unsteady. Like she had built something fragile and only now noticed the cracks. Kara texted me the next evening. "Hey, can you come early on Sunday? Bridal shower setup. Bring tape, scissors, and that calligraphy pen you have. LOL, thanks, no, please. No question mark. No mention of my graduation. I stared at the message, rereading it like it was in another language. I never replied. On Sunday, I took the train out of town. Not far. Just far enough. I found a tiny bookstore cafe 2 stops away, tucked between an antique shop and a closed-down florist. The kind of place that smelled like dust, cinnamon, and binding glue. I ordered chamomile tea and sat by the window. It was raining gently, enough to blur the glass, but not enough to make anyone rush. I pulled out my notebook, the leather one I bought for myself after finals. I had saved it, waiting for the right moment. And then I wrote, "Today, I didn't show up for someone who never showed up for me." It felt small and enormous, like saying your own name out loud in an empty room. Later that evening, I turned my phone back on. There were 6 missed calls from Mom, 2 from Dad, none from Kara, 1 voicemail. I pressed play. "I don't know what's gotten into you lately. You're acting distant, selfish even. Kara's hurt. We're all hurt. I hope you think long and hard about what kind of daughter you want to be." I deleted it without saving. That night, I slept with the window open. The rain had stopped, but the air smelled like something beginning, like I was starting to belong to myself, and for once, I didn't need them to clap. The wedding invitation arrived in early spring. Thick, creamy paper with rose gold lettering, tied in a blush ribbon. It smelled like someone had sprayed perfume over it. Kara's signature scent, of course. Something sugary and expensive, meant to linger. It was addressed to Ms. L. Callahan with a handwritten note. "We hope you'll be there. Kara really wants all the family together." It didn't say thank you for the graduation. It didn't say sorry for the dinner. It was just another expectation in a long line of obligations I never agreed to. I left it sealed on my desk for 3 days. Then I slipped it into the bottom drawer. The archive. No RSVP. No regret. At first, no one said anything. Then the messages came. "It's not just about her. It's about family. You'll regret missing her big day. Don't let a petty misunderstanding ruin something beautiful. You're her sister." But when had I ever been treated like one? When had Kara stayed up helping me study? When had she saved me a seat? When had she handed me anything that wasn't already broken? Mom called the week of the bridal fitting. I told Kara you're just overwhelmed, that you'll come around. "I won't," I said gently. She went quiet. "You don't mean that." "I do." The silence on her end was heavier than any scream. "I see," she said at last, voice clipped. "Then I suppose we'll move forward without you." She hung up, and I exhaled like I'd been holding my breath for years. The day of the fitting, I went to the library downtown, the kind with the old wooden tables and cracked windows that let in light like spilled honey. I sat by the window and opened a book I wasn't assigned. And for the first time, I read without guilt. Outside, the sky was pale blue and clean. The air smelled like cold stone and ink. I took a photo of the table, my coffee, the book, the sunlight, and posted it with a caption. "Peace looks good on me." No hashtags, no names, no explanations, just me, in frame. The night before the wedding, I got a text from Dad. "If you don't show up tomorrow, people will ask questions. Not, we miss you. Not, we'd like you there, just the fear of appearances, the kind of fear that makes people stage smiles and count chairs. I stared at the message for a long time, then turned my phone over, face down, and went back to washing my dishes. The dress I was supposed to wear still hung in the plastic bag in the corner of my closet. Pale mauve. Thin straps. The tag still attached. Kara had picked it, insisted on cohesion. I hadn't tried it on. That night, I took it out of the closet, folded it neatly, and placed it outside my bedroom door with a note. Maybe someone else can wear this better. I didn't slam the door, I didn't cry. Instead, I packed a small tote with a book, a sweater, a notebook, and my camera. Then I left the house just after sunrise. While they pinned corsages and retouched foundation, I found a quiet lake 2 towns away. Still, mirror-like water. Trees just starting to blush green again. I sat on the dock and let the sun rest on my face. Not as a daughter. Not as a sister. Just as someone who chose not to attend her own erasure. I took a photo of the water, the empty dock beside me, and the tips of my shoes. And then one more, of my reflection. Not smiling, just present. They would spin their stories. That I was bitter, that I was fragile, that I was selfish. But none of that mattered anymore, because this wasn't rebellion. It wasn't revenge. It was relief. That evening, I stopped at a second-hand shop on the way home. The kind with narrow aisles and the smell of someone else's past. I found a wooden frame. Simple, a little scratched. The kind no one would notice in a window display. But I liked it. I brought it home, wiped it clean, and opened the drawer, took out the envelope. The one stained with grease and silence. I slid the diploma out, unfolded it for the first time in months. There it was. My name in black script, the seal, the weight. Of everything I had done alone, I placed it in the frame. It didn't need a ceremony, just a wall, and a nail. And me. The house felt different now. They were all still away, caught in the afterglow of chandeliers and champagne toasts. I imagined Kara dancing in a circle of white linens and borrowed vows, Dad nodding to music he didn't like, Mom crying over the daughter who always asked for more. They wouldn't notice my absence until they looked at the photos, until they counted the chairs, until someone said, "Wait, wasn't your other daughter there?" And they'd say whatever made the story easier. But I knew the truth. I had shown up for every version of them, and they never once showed up for me. That night, I made dinner for myself. Lit a candle, just one. Played a playlist I used to study to, back when no one noticed I passed. And I sat in my own quiet, like it was music. I didn't check my phone. I didn't open social media. I let them celebrate without me. And for the first time, it didn't feel like I'd lost anything. The next morning, I walked to the post office. Mailed out a few job applications, one to a city I'd never lived in. The thought didn't scare me. Not anymore. I realized something as I sealed the envelopes. Sometimes the loudest form of love is leaving, and sometimes the first real home you find is the one you build away from the people who kept calling your name, but never saw your face. And when they ask, years from now, why didn't she come to the wedding? I hope someone answers. Maybe she finally realized the celebration was never for her.